I truly love growing citrus trees in my garden. The smell of the flowers is simply intoxicating, as well as the butterflies they attract and the fruit that you get off of them. You just can't beat it. Let's get into some basic information about growing citrus trees. Welcome back to New Garden Road, where I share my love of gardening with you in a way that I hope will inform, inspire, and elevate you. Don't forget to subscribe to New Garden Road and click the bell for notifications. You're going to want to stay up to date for all the gardening videos that I got coming your way. Have you ever thought about growing some citrus trees in your garden? Lemons, limes, grapefruit, kumquats, mandarins, orange. There are a few things you should know before you get started. Citrus trees are not cold hardy. You may find some varieties such as mandarins and kumquats that are hardy into the 20s. In general, the citrus trees do not like temperatures below 32 degrees, and many of them will freeze. That's not a good thing, and you won't be seeing them after that. Most citrus trees are grafted, and if they come back from the rootstock, that's not going to be the true citrus tree that you purchased. It's going to be whatever the rootstock was, and it may not even produce an edible fruit. The foliage is likely going to look different, so keep an eye out for that if you have citrus trees growing outside and you've had a freeze. Here's a nice little side view of my ruby red grapefruit tree. You can see this is going to be the rootstock, and this line here shows you where that graft has been set. I like a good straight graft. You're going to keep a lookout for shoots coming off of this rootstock. You don't want those to take hold. If they're below that graft point, make sure you're actively removing those. Those are not going to be true to the fruit tree that you're trying to grow. If you keep them pruned, you're going to encourage that graft to get stronger. So be on the lookout for that. I like to grow citrus trees in containers. Most of mine are in either 16 or 18-inch terracotta pots. I like to cultivate dwarf varieties because they are more manageable in these containers, and that also enables me to protect them during periods of cold weather. In the winter, I will bring them into a greenhouse. And in that greenhouse, on the coldest nights during the coldest stretches of winter, I will supply some supplemental heat with some incandescent rope lights. Citrus trees can be sensitive to having their roots too wet. You don't want to overwater them. Most of mine that are in containers are getting water about twice a week. I'm making several passes with the water wand in order to give them time to absorb the water slowly. You always want to go slow and low with the water as opposed to a fast blast. The other thing that they're really going to want is food. You're going to look for a fertilizer that is high in nitrogen, something like an 824 or a 721. I really like to feed the soil with a granular molasses as well as an iron supplement. And then I'll use some kind of micronutrient component such as azomite. Make sure your citrus trees are mulched. You want to protect the soil. The soil is alive. That's going to be a part of their care. I'd like to mention a few of the most common pests that you'll find on your citrus trees. Number one, the leaf miner. It's a caterpillar that will eat the tissue in between the membrane of the leaves. You'll see like a little zigzag pattern, primarily cosmetic. I have never seen this occur in a ratio that was detrimental to my tree. All right, next one would be whitefly. You'll find them on the underside of the leaf. They're also very common. A lot of times they're indicating that you have overwatered your citrus tree and it's getting a little stress, or maybe it's in an area that's too heavily shaded and it needs a little more sunlight. And a lot of times it's a combination of those types of things, or just a stress in general. Those can be treated with an insecticidal soap spray, and you probably want to do that about every 3 days for a couple weeks to get that population under control. They will have some larvae on the underside of the leaves. They're fairly transparent. You might not see them all, so make sure you're spraying the underside of the leaves with that insecticidal soap if you're going to treat for those. One other insect that you might find on your tree would be scale. Typically I find these in a cluster on a branch. They don't really move. You also might see some fire ants harvesting the honeydew off of the back of these scale. My method has been to completely remove that little branch that they're on. That's not as easy to do if they're widespread on your tree. At that point, you would want to treat them with something like a neem oil or some other horticultural oil. Lastly, you may find some caterpillars on your tree eating the leaves, and they're going to resemble bird poop. That's the larva of the giant swallowtail butterfly. It is a truly beautiful butterfly. I have not seen these in a population that was detrimental to the cultivation of my citrus tree. Let those caterpillars eat some of those leaves and enjoy the butterflies floating through your garden. Another thing that can bother citrus are birds. In my area, I have grackles, which really love to come peck on the fruit. Most of the time, they're just gonna cause some cosmetic damage and not really ruin the fruit. However, I do use elements such as scare tape in order to keep them off the fruit. Citrus trees are pollinated by bees. It's important to note that all of the citrus trees that are grown for sale in the state of Texas are treated with a systemic pesticide. And this is to protect the future of citrus production. It would be recommended for at least 2 years after the purchase of your citrus tree, you would remove any blossoms. The fruit will contain a small trace amount of the pesticide that is applied, and that can also be transplanted through the flowers to beneficial insects as well as pollinators such as honeybees. And we all know that they need all the protection that we can give them. So just be aware of that. It's not something that's negotiable. I think it is something that ensures future citrus production in the backyard garden, but you're gonna have to be patient and wait a couple years. That's not such a bad thing anyway, because you want these citrus trees to establish themselves, grow some good roots, get acclimated, and at that point they'll probably be producing annually, whereas younger trees do tend to skip years. Sometimes they don't produce the first year. So it's a waiting game, but it's something that is worth it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got some tips, and I hope you're gonna grow some citrus trees in your garden. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, please subscribe to my page. Leave me a question or comment below, and as always, keep it organic. The grapefruit in my back. In the state of Texas, all citrus trees are treated with a specific neonicotinoid. It's the plane, it's the plane, it's the plane overhead. I'm by the airport. Can't you tell? I just made that up.